Well, let's bring in our military analyst, Sean Bell, for more on this. Sean, great to see you again.
I will.
So this event, the Defence Secretary is at the Ukrainian Defence Contact Group in Germany. What can we expect to come out of it?
Yeah, it's good. Good afternoon. 1st April 22 was the first time this group met. There's over 50 nations, most of NATO, in fact, it's all of NATO, plus about 25 other nations. It's a way of coordinating donations to Ukraine because there's no point in having a feast and famine, so they try to even it out. It's the 24th meeting today in Ramstein itself, but it is the first time that John Healey, the Defence Secretary, has gone, and he'll undoubtedly be wanting to demonstrate continuity of British support for Ukraine, but he's also expected to announce these missiles, 650 extra missiles. Hundreds have been provided up till now. It's called the Martlet missile. It's a lightweight multi-role missile, not particularly spectacular. It's relatively short range and the like, but it's the key example here is that it's the first time we've really seen the UK defence industrial base spin up to start to provide more complex weapons into Ukraine. The West stockpiles of weapons, as we know, have been diminished significantly. Dumb weapons like artillery and bullets, there's lots of those being provided to Ukraine, but smart weapons, technology is the West's asymmetric advantage, really worried about handing that over to Ukraine and finding it falling into the hands of the Russians. Therefore, the challenge is how many of these weapons, smart weapons, do you provide? But President Zelenskyy, Ukraine desperately needs them and in quantity, and that's the conundrum.
These new missiles, they're short, medium, long range?
Short range, they are about 13 kilograms in weight. They go about 6 kilometres max. They go Mach 1.5, but they hit a variety of targets. So they can hit land targets. They can also hit air targets, but they're not anything like as good as the Patriot system, but they're also a fraction of the cost of them. So they provide volume as well as some capability.
But it's long range that Zelensky's still pushing for in particular?
Yeah, long range is particularly. He appealed again in Ramstein for that. He wants more ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles we've talked about before. But of course, there's limited supplies of those available. There's reports that the US is considering providing the Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff missiles called JASM. The key point about it is air-launched, and it's got 370-kilometre range, but potentially 1,000-kilometre range. That's exactly what President Zelenskyy would want. But because it's air-launched, you need to get clearances to operate. That takes, in peacetime, a long time. Be interested to see whether that can be overcome. The real answer for President Zelenskyy, though, is building the stuff himself. He has been getting the technology and the components from the West. He's built a ballistic missile that was tested the other day, long-range drones as well. And that almost certainly explains why Russia's ramped up its long-range attacks against Ukraine's energy infrastructure and its defence industrial base to try and stop Ukraine developing these weapons.
What is the sort of supply, the quantity of supply that Russia has of its own missiles like?
Well, it's both sides are struggling for supplies of weapons at the moment. Russia's ramped up its domestic production by 3 times its pre-war level, but it still needs more, and it's using its oil revenue to import weapons from North Korea and Iran. Now, the sources suggest that Putin signed a contract with Iran back in December last year for the delivery of a whole load of ballistic missiles. Now, we understand that the Ababil and the Fatah 360 are 2 missiles that are going to be imported from Iran, and they're expecting deliveries very, very shortly. They may have even come in now. We understand Russian military personnel have been in Iran learning how to use these. Now, the real issue here is that actually, if Putin has only got his own missiles, he's got to be really prudent with when he uses them. If he's got volumes, now these are short-range missiles, but he'll be able to use that volume to attack near the front line of his attack, and he'll be able to use his own Iskander missiles to do long-range strikes into Ukraine. The net effect of this, I suspect, is we're going to see an increase in missile attacks, not only near the front line, but also deep into Ukraine. Could be a very difficult few weeks for Ukraine.
Does it bring us closer to a culmination in things or further?
But the trouble is, I haven't got a crystal ball, but my gut is that President Putin is clearly pushing very firmly ahead on his special military operation, try and seize the last bit of the Donbass that he doesn't have, and he's pushing everything at it, despite massive casualties at the moment, and he'll be using the weapons, everything he's got, because once the winter arrives, about 10 weeks' time, it's coincident with the US presidential elections. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he starts suing for some sort of peace agreement. Now, that would be very difficult for President Zelenskyy to stomach, but neither side has the ability to do any strategic breakthrough. What will the West's appetite be for continuing this war? The trouble is, if a peace agreement is agreed, it'll reward Putin for his aggression in Ukraine. What message does that send to international audience, and could have profound implications for our national security?
And Sean, just finally, the reshuffle that the Ukrainian government's gone through, is that sort of settled now, and has it kind of gone down relatively positively internally in Ukraine?
It's not gone down well in Ukraine because you take away a lot of people who are set in their posts. The trouble is, from a military perspective, bluntly, you need to get fresh ideas in, and over time, it's relentless, the burden on individuals, and getting new people in with fresh ideas, fresh momentum, fresh energy is really important. 2.5 years in, it's no great surprise there's a reshuffle.
Sure, great stuff. Thanks so much.